The fluorescent lights of Riverside Diner hummed their familiar tune as Maria Rodriguez wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time that evening. Her stomach had been growling for hours, a hollow ache she'd grown accustomed to ignoring. The dinner rush had ended, leaving only a few stragglers nursing their coffee, and she'd already told herself she could make it through her shift without eating. She had to. Money was tighter than it had ever been. After losing her office job 3 months ago, Maria had cobbled together whatever work she could find, dog walking in the mornings, this waitressing gig at night. But it still wasn't enough. Not for rent. Not for utilities. Definitely not for both food and everything else. She'd perfected the art of pretending. Pretending she wasn't lightheaded. Pretending the room wasn't spinning slightly when she stood up too fast. Pretending she didn't calculate the exact calories in every sample of food the cook offered her, weighing whether accepting it would reveal too much about her situation. Tonight, though, was different. Tonight, she'd made a mistake. A family had just left their booth, a teenage couple who'd spent more time on their phones than eating. They'd left behind half a burger, untouched fries, and a piece of pie with only a single bite taken out of it. The food sat there on the table, perfectly good, going to waste. Maria's hands trembled as she approached with her bus tub. She glanced around the diner. The cook was in the back. Her manager had stepped outside for his smoke break. The remaining customers were absorbed in their own worlds. Before she could talk herself out of it, Maria quickly wrapped the burger in a napkin and slid it into her apron pocket. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she collected the rest of the dishes. She'd been so careful, so quick. But she hadn't noticed the little girl. 6-year-old Sophie Chen sat in the corner booth with her father, Daniel, a software engineer who'd been working from home since his wife passed away 2 years earlier. Sophie had been coloring quietly, but her sharp eyes had caught Maria's furtive movement. The child's crayon stopped mid-stroke. "Daddy," Sophie whispered, tugging on her father's sleeve. That lady took food from the table. Daniel looked up from his laptop, following his daughter's gaze to Maria, who was now hurrying toward the kitchen with her loaded bus tub. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" She put the leftover hamburger in her pocket. "I saw her." Sophie's voice wasn't accusing, it was curious, confused. Why would she do that? Daniel frowned, watching as Maria disappeared through the kitchen doors. His first instinct was disapproval. Stealing was wrong, wasn't it? Even if it was just leftover food heading for the trash. But something about the way Maria had moved, hurried, furtive, almost desperate, made him pause. He thought about the times over the past few weeks he'd been here. Maria was always professional, always had a tired smile for Sophie. But now that he was paying attention, he noticed other things. The way her uniform hung a bit looser than it should. The hollow shadows under her eyes. The way her hands sometimes shook when she poured coffee. "Daddy," Sophie prompted. "Are you going to tell on her?" Daniel closed his laptop slowly. "No, Sophie. I don't think I am. But you always say stealing is wrong." "It is wrong," Daniel said carefully. "But sometimes people do things because they don't have another choice. Sometimes people are in situations we can't understand just by looking at them." Sophie considered this, her young face scrunched in thought. "Is she hungry, Daddy? Like the people we donate to at the food drive?" "Maybe she is, sweetheart." "That's sad." Sophie looked down at her own half-eaten grilled cheese sandwich. "We should help her." Daniel felt something crack open in his chest. Since his wife's death, he'd been so focused on just surviving, on making sure Sophie was okay, on keeping their small world intact, that he'd forgotten to look outward. His daughter, with her simple compassion, was reminding him what really mattered. "You're right," he said. "We should." Over the next few days, Daniel became a regular fixture at the diner. He'd bring Sophie after school, and they'd order enough food for 3 people, always leaving substantial portions uneaten. He made sure to request Maria's section every time. Maria was grateful for the generous tips he left, even if she found the amount of wasted food troubling. She couldn't understand why this man and his daughter kept ordering so much and eating so little. But she needed the money too badly to question it. On the 4th visit, Sophie made her move. "Miss Maria," the little girl called as Maria approached their table. "We ordered too much food again. Daddy never finishes his dessert. Do you want it? It seems silly to throw it away." Maria froze, her cheeks burning. She could feel the careful walls she'd built crumbling. "Oh, that's very kind, but I couldn't, please." Sophie's eyes were wide and earnest. "My mommy used to say that sharing food is sharing love. And she's not here anymore, but I still want to share love." Daniel watched Maria's face, saw the moment when pride warred with need, saw the slight tremor in her hands as she gripped her order pad. He kept his voice gentle. "We really would feel better if it didn't go to waste. No pressure, but the offer stands." Maria's eyes stung. When was the last time someone had shown her this kind of simple kindness? Thank you, she whispered. That's very generous. From that night on, an unspoken arrangement developed. Daniel and Sophie would order extra, and Maria would quietly accept their leftovers during her break. Neither side acknowledged what was really happening. It was a dance of dignity, allowing Maria to accept help without feeling diminished. But dignity doesn't pay the rent. 2 weeks later, Maria didn't show up for her shift. Then she missed another. And another, Daniel noticed immediately. A new waitress, Karen, was working Maria's section, and when he casually asked about Maria, Karen's expression turned somber. Oh, Maria. Poor thing got evicted last week. Apparently she's been living in her car. The manager let her go, said she couldn't have employees without stable housing. Something about reliability. Karen shook her head. Between you and me, I think it's heartless. She was one of the hardest workers here. Daniel felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. While he'd been congratulating himself for his small kindnesses, Maria had been drowning. The extra meals hadn't been enough. Not nearly enough. Do you know where she is now? He asked urgently. Karen shrugged. I heard she's been parking behind the old grocery store on 5th Street. But I don't know for sure. That evening, Daniel left Sophie with his sister and drove to 5th Street. Sure enough, in the far corner of the abandoned lot, he spotted Maria's beat-up Honda Civic. Even from a distance, he could see her in the driver's seat, wrapped in a thin blanket, the phone in her hand glowing in the darkness. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle her, and tapped gently on the window. Maria's head jerked up, eyes wide with alarm that softened to confusion when she recognized him. She rolled down the window a crack. Mr. Chen. What are you doing here? I heard what happened, Daniel said simply. I'm sorry. I should have done more. Maria's laugh was bitter. You did plenty. More than anyone else. This isn't your problem. Maybe not. But I'd like to help, if you'll let me. He took a breath. I have a garage apartment. Nothing fancy, my wife's mother used to live there before she passed. It's been empty for a year. You could stay there. No rent, at least until you get back on your feet. Maria stared at him, her expression cycling through disbelief, hope, and suspicion. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. My daughter saw you take that leftover burger a few weeks ago, Daniel said. She asked me if we should tell on you. And I realized something. We spend so much time judging people's actions without knowing their stories. My wife used to volunteer at homeless shelters. She'd always say that most people are one bad month, one medical emergency, one lost job away from being in crisis. I didn't really understand that until I saw you. Tears streamed down Maria's face. I can't just take charity, it's not charity. The apartment needs someone living in it. And honestly. Daniel's voice grew softer. Since my wife died, Sophie and I have been pretty isolated. We could use a friend. Someone who appreciates the value of showing up, of working hard, of not giving up even when things are impossible. Maria covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. When was the last time someone had seen her, really seen her, as a person with value rather than a problem to be solved or avoided? Okay, she whispered. Okay. 3 months later, Maria stood in Daniel's kitchen making breakfast. She'd found a new job as an administrative assistant, started putting money in savings, and was planning to get her own place soon. But for now, she was grateful for this unexpected sanctuary. Sophie bounced into the kitchen, already dressed for school. Miss Maria. Are you making your special pancakes? I am indeed, Maria said, flipping one expertly. With chocolate chips, just how you like them. Daniel followed his daughter, smiling at the domestic scene. His house felt like a home again, filled with warmth and laughter. Maria had become not just their tenant but their friend, helping with Sophie's homework, cooking meals they shared together, bringing light back into their small family. You know, Maria said as she plated the pancakes, I've been thinking about that first time. When Sophie saw me take that food. Oh? Daniel poured coffee for both of them. I was so ashamed. So certain that if anyone knew the truth about my situation, I'd lose everything, my job, my dignity, any chance at getting ahead. She set Sophie's plate down, ruffling the girl's hair. But your daughter didn't see something shameful. She just saw someone who needed help. No judgment. Just compassion. Sophie looked up, syrup already on her chin. My mommy said everybody needs help sometimes. Even grown-ups. Your mommy was a wise woman, Maria said softly. She looked at Daniel. You both saved my life, you know. Not just by giving me a place to stay. But by giving me back my faith that there are still good people in the world. People who see you when you're invisible. People who help without humiliating. Daniel reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You saved us too. After my wife died, I was so focused on protecting Sophie and myself that we were just existing. Going through the motions. You reminded us what it means to really live. To connect with people. To be part of something bigger than our own grief. Can Miss Maria stay forever? Sophie asked hopefully. Maria laughed. I'll be getting my own place soon, sweetie. But I'm not going anywhere. Not really. You're stuck with me now. Good, Sophie declared. Because you're family. And in that moment, in that sunny kitchen with pancakes and coffee and laughter, Maria realized it was true. Family wasn't just about blood. It was about the people who saw you at your worst and chose to help. The people who offered dignity along with support. The people who reminded you that your circumstances didn't define your worth. She'd come so close to giving up entirely. To believing that she was invisible, that her struggle didn't matter, that no one would notice or care if she disappeared, but a little girl had noticed. Had cared. Had seen beyond the uniform and the forced smile to the human being beneath, and that had made all the difference. Later that day, Maria stopped by the Riverside Diner during her lunch break. She wasn't there to work. She wanted to talk to some of her former co-workers, who were still struggling, still silently hungry, still trapped in that desperate place she'd been. She ordered a large meal she could actually afford now, and when she left, she pressed a folded piece of paper into Karen's hand. This is the number for a community assistance program. Free food, job counseling, temporary housing help. If you know anyone who needs it, and I know you do, please pass it along. Karen's eyes widened. Maria, I thought you were. I was, Maria said simply. But someone helped me. So now I help others. That's how it works. As she walked out of the diner into the bright autumn afternoon, Maria thought about visibility. For so long, she'd been terrified of being seen, of anyone knowing how badly she was struggling. She'd equated visibility with shame, but being seen had saved her. Being seen had connected her to people who cared. Being seen had reminded her that she mattered. The world was full of people hiding their hunger, for food, for connection, for dignity, for hope. People who smiled through their pain, who pretended everything was fine, who suffered in silence, because asking for help felt like admitting defeat. But there were also people like Daniel and Sophie. People who noticed. People who reached out. People who understood that we're all human, all struggling, all deserving of compassion. Maria pulled out her phone and texted Daniel, "Thank you. For everything. For seeing me." His response came quickly, "Thank you for letting us see you. See you at dinner." She smiled and slipped her phone back in her pocket. She had a life again. Not a perfect life. There were still bills to pay, challenges to overcome, scars that would take time to heal. But it was hers. And she wasn't facing it alone anymore. Sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. Sometimes it takes a child's honest observation and a father's compassionate response. Sometimes it takes someone being brave enough to be vulnerable, and someone else being brave enough to care, and sometimes, the simple act of being seen, really seen, is enough to change everything.